Today, we're taking a closer look at the technology that keeps ECS Payments division of USAG moving forward. IT and engineering teams work almost entirely behind the scenes, yet their work shapes the reliability and security that merchants depend on every day.
Hi, I'm Kyle Elder, the Chief Technology Officer of USAG, a payment processing company.
So welcome, Kyle.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here. Normally IT runs from the camera when marketing comes by, so I'm glad you answered my email and you're here to talk about what you do and what your team does because it's such an important role, especially for our industry.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to chat with you and learn a little bit more.
Awesome. I'm happy to give any information I can.
For someone who's not in the IT or engineering realm, how would you describe what your department actually does on a day-to-day basis?
It's a lot of maintenance as well as trying to push us to the future. So engineering side, of course, they're doing the software engineering. They're programming, they're reviewing each other's code. We're trying to move fast in that because software engineering is a huge undertaking, especially with the products and stuff that we're building. And then on the IT side is just making sure we have the right infrastructure, making sure we have the right security in place and everything. Of course, same goes for the software engineering side. Programming and everything requires a lot of security. So we meet daily to make sure that we understand what we're doing programming wise and make sure that we're all aligned in the same page and kind of working as one to the end goal, essentially.
I know I see you guys always on your daily Teams meetings.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I'm like, what are they always talking about?
Yeah.
They're getting on the same page.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of nerd talk.
Okay, so for your specific job role as Chief Technology Officer, CTO, what would you say your day-to-day or week-to-week job really looks like?
Primarily, it's leadership and oversight over things because in IT and development, we have to always revisit things. Even if it's 3 months later, it's changed a lot in just that short time. It's a lot to keep on top of because what we weren't able to do 3 months ago, we might be able to do now. So we might have implemented something, but now there's a way to do it in a way that's a lot less manual work and just more automation. And that's always what we try to do is automate as much as possible. I always like to try to automate myself out of a job because I want to be able to go on to the next thing. I want to make sure I'm doing more work that's actually valuable, not just the mundane stuff.
I love that. I'm trying to automate myself out of a job.
Yeah.
It's like the best line I've heard. Most people don't want that because they want job security.
I know, but it helps you grow.
I love that. Well, speaking of growth, you started in 2018 here, and you started, in such a different position than Chief of Technology at USAG. So can you tell me a little bit more about your journey? I know when we started here, they called it the Kyle site. And I'm like, that's how I knew you. You're like, oh, you're this guy in IT that built a website that we use. And now we have a different website that your team has been a huge part of. So I'd love to hear more about your personal journey.
Yeah, so I started here in 2018 as a software engineer, and primarily when I started, I was just helping the backend flow. I was trying to make sure that data was flowing into our system. It was coming in at the same time every day. If it failed to come in, there was an alert that came out. So I just wanted to make sure that our structure was a little bit more sound when I came in. We had code, but as the only software engineer and supporting all of it at the time, I just wanted to make sure that our business functioned and just kind of kept progressing as it should. Ryan, our late CTO, he approached me. He was like, hey, it'd be really cool if we could have like a site that we can like look at our data like internally. I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And that's how the Kyle site was born. People would log in using their work login and they would be able to search for transactions and chargebacks and settlements and everything through our data. But when I was hired, I was also here to help build our new generation of software and at least be there to help guide it because another company was building it for us at the time. Little by little, we have so many uniqueness parts of our company that it turns out the only way that we were going to be able to build a new software is if we had to build it ourselves. Eventually, I became a software engineer manager to a director of IT and development and then to chief technology officer where we built the Payment Connection all through that time. I hired a team and they started to kind of just develop this new CRM that was easy to find our merchants, that you can see reporting on, that you can board merchants on and underwrite everything. It's a really cool system that we built. I'm really proud of how far we've grown in the time I've been here.
So a little bit more about the Payment Connection. You kind of did a little overview of it, but I want to talk about it a lot more because it's a huge thing that we've developed internally. And I know that our CEO is obsessed with it and is just so proud of it and proud of your team. And Aiden Technology. So it's another branch that we've created just for this reporting website, and it does so much more than reporting.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about like the formation of Aiden Tech, your involvement in that, and then how that team is working together to break barriers in the industry with this website?
Aiden Technology is essentially the tech side of our business. They do the software engineering, we have our cloud engineers with it, we have QA, product management, everything, all the core necessities to build a good tech team. They all they work on that software, other softwares that we have as well, but the Payment Connection is our big one. Yeah, we grew that because it just became such a need to build software. As time's gone on, like I said, technology is growing so fast. I just had to advocate for the need for something like this because I think we'd fall behind if we weren't building our own software like this. I think it's been a crucial part to us continuing and to remain competitive, and also to just have a software that's easy for USAG to use, but our merchants as well. And technology has been a fun thing to build from the ground up, and I'm really happy with what that team is doing as they progress through everything.
Yeah, and you went from the only software engineer to now a whole team that you've created.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they're also smart too. Like I learn so much from them constantly, and I love working with them. They're a great team.
So with the Payment Connection, just a little bit more, can you explain maybe from start to end how we use it, like each department, how it's geared toward them, and then how it's geared toward our merchants and what they can expect from it?
We started off the Payment Connection building, actually the entry for it is the boarding application, the boarding side of it. Applications to be filled out by account executives or ISOs, whoever is partnered with us to board merchants on our system. From there, that goes to our sales support team. They start to vet the applications, make sure it looks good, and then that moves on to an underwriting team to make sure the application looks right. So the underwriting side is just viewing the data, making sure they can pull the necessary information from it while making API calls to other systems that we integrate with to get their response of like what to do next with that, to approve, reject. Once it's approved, it goes to our account coordinators where they can board it into a system, and in some systems we help board that information it protects data integrity, so we want to automate a lot of those processes as well to make boarding into other systems a little bit easier too. So our account coordinators do that. Once they do that, it moves on to tech support, where they handle the work orders, they handle the terminals, not to be confused with IT support. Tech support and IT support are always a little bit confused in our company, but tech support is meant for like the payment terminals, the POS devices that our merchants receive. So they'll send those out, and then our client success team will reach out to the merchant in this whole process and check to see like, hey, are you receiving your equipment? Do you need help getting on the Payment Connection? We are here to help you, so just let us know what you need to kind of proceed with a TPC and doing our payment processing. Finally, there's merchant services who will be able to use TPC to see the data that we have in there to know how to reach out to the merchants should they have any questions on things, or if a merchant reaches out, we can validate who they are in a TPC. And then there's accounting that, of course, make sure that everything reconciles at the end of the day. And we make sure that all those processes have some way of working and to be a little bit more efficient and effective for all departments here.
Can the merchant log into TPC and see their reporting?
Of course, yeah. They can log in, see their reporting, statements, chargebacks, transactions, settlements. It's pretty easy to sift through it all too.
So with TPC, we know it helps merchants, we know it helps our departments internally, but what does it do for ISOs?
TPC is built very heavily for ISOs, almost equally as it is for merchants. If not, maybe more. They're very important to us. For ISOs, we allow them to board merchants very easily. The application process is very smooth, and it goes through a whole DocuSign flow so that you fill out the data and then it gets sent to the merchant. They simply click sign and they're done with their side of the process. And once they're boarded into TPC, you as an ISO can see your kind of analytics, your dashboard of like high level overview of the merchants that you've boarded, the top 10 performers, maybe just like a chargeback ratios, all this information on your merchant just in one nice dashboard. In addition to that, we can also we manage the commission payouts from that as well. So it's easy to kind of see where everything is in TPC.
Beyond TPC and how that supports the whole organization, how does your team specifically support interdepartmentally?
When it comes to IT, we were always there to help with like desktop support, making sure your computers are working as expected. But everything else is like, it's essentially somebody has a function that they need maybe, or maybe they're not able to do something that they thought was possible. They'll submit a ticket to us and we'll either help them to let them know how to do that, or it might even become a project. And it's something that we end up putting to product management in Aiden Technology, where they will kind of put it into our next roadmap for our next deployment. So people come to us with questions all the time, and we're always happy to help and kind of get us rolling to the next step.
Well, is there any spot where, you have this huge team now, but is there anything where you have to step in personally as like CTO, or just with your knowledge and background, where someone on your team might not have the answer and you're like, oh, I'm on it?
I've been around since the beginning of TPC, so like there's going to be some legacy code in there too, some things that we used to do and maybe we started transitioning to something different. And like sometimes if we're not commenting in the code and saying what this code snippet does, and if it's not engineered in a great way, maybe like it probably wasn't back in the beginning, people might be confused when they see it. There is a specific business reason for it. So that happens a few times. Sometimes I'm helpful for also like the deployment of our code. Sometimes people are out and I just need to step in and be of assistance in some ways.
Speaking of our teams, what is your favorite part about our office culture here?
I was surprised when I came here because everybody's just so nice and friendly. I come from like my previous business experiences were from very corporate environments. And this is corporate too, but it's so friendly and everybody's so nice, and like mistakes are fine. You make a mistake, you learn from it. Nobody makes you feel bad about it, but you know that you want to improve on it, And I feel like I've always gotten that here. Like as a software engineer, I can make some huge mistakes. One small change in code can send things just terribly for the day. And that happened to me early on when I was here, and I was like, oh no, and I had to make sure that I cleaned it up and I made it right, and I got everything all done appropriately for the rest of the day. But nobody made me feel bad about that mistake, and I was able to recover everything fully. And I think people can work better when you're not really reprimanded for things that are just simple human errors that happens.
Can you walk me through how IT development impacts our merchants?
We do our best to make things available to merchants as more of like a self-service. But on top of that, if there are some things that a merchant needs that are not easily attainable by them, we do allow them to, they will reach out to merchant services, and merchant services can support them, but we do provide merchant services with various ways to help support the merchants. So we are able to support our merchants by supporting our company. Like I said, USAG is our customer, I always feel, so we want to make sure that USAG and ECS payments can support our merchants.
So is there a specific time when you personally helped a merchant, or your team personally helped a merchant when merchant services couldn't?
It rarely happens actually, but there was a merchant in Idaho that we had boarded recently, and they weren't able to access the payment connection. It was really weird because every other merchant can access it, we could access it, they could access it on their phone, but from their computer they couldn't. It was baffling us. So I got on a call personally with them to like kind of see what was going on, and even in that call, we couldn't figure it out. And when that happens, sometimes internet service providers like Charter Spectrum or Time Warner or Cox over here, they don't put the domain into their system yet. Essentially, it hasn't, like the reputation needs to be higher, and the payment connection is very new, so the reputation wasn't there. We told them to change their DNS host to Google. It's 8.8.8.8 in case anybody's curious. And when they did that, they were able to access TPC again. We're like, no way, I can't believe that. But then what happens from that is we write up a whole like email template that we can provide to merchant services, so the next time this comes up, it was able to help them. And there was a few that popped up after that.
Oh, wow.
They were able to kind of use that script to help out with.
So what do you think that situations like that really say about ECS and what we're willing to do when it comes to helping our merchants?
It doesn't matter if you're a big or a small merchant. That merchant in particular was a small one, but I know that from us helping them, we learned more as a company to be able to serve all of our merchants. Every merchant's important to ECS payments, so we want to make sure that we help everybody. And we do have the staff and the availability to help everybody.
What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about your department, whether it be internal within our company or externally?
Maybe internally is the security practices that we're putting in place are because we don't trust our employees, because that's definitely not the case, right? We are going for SOC 2 compliance, we're PCI compliant, and we have auditors that check to make sure that we are abiding by the guidelines of these compliances. So we put a lot of things in place that might make work harder for people, but it's all just to keep people's data secure in the long run, and that's just what we try to do as an organization for the people we work with.
You're all about technology, and a lot of that involves PCI compliance and SOC 2. Can you maybe explain what those are exactly, what merchants need to know, and then the difference between them?
PCI compliance in particular is an industry standard, and it protects consumer cardholder data. So its primary goal is to make sure that the cardholder's information doesn't get exposed in any way. And we are PCI compliant, meaning that when we accept cardholder data, we will make sure that it's encrypted at rest and stored in a database that is, if it's stored anywhere, it's stored in a database that is secure and only accessible by systems that are in scope for PCI compliance. So it's not anything that people can go in and look at the cardholder data and extract it in any way. It's a very complicated process to get that data. It is possible to get the data, but through processes that are built and there's structure around it. And then an auditor will come in and check to see, do you have these systems in place to protect their data? So USAG is PCI compliant, and we make sure that we have been that way since before I was even here. SOC 2 compliance is a lot more of a general and a more broad IT security for our company. And that would mean that, their hard drives are encrypted. All systems that we access, the system is encrypted at rest and in transit. We have secure development practices. People have access to information that only they need access to per their job role. It changes not only just IT, but just the structure of our company even in ways. That one's a lot more meticulous and a lot more broad of a compliance standard. And I'm very happy to say that we are well on our way with that. We're in the middle of the audit for that, and we expect to be SOC 2 Type 2 compliant by in the beginning of 2026. And then the differences essentially for PCI and SOC 2 is a little bit more like PCI is specific to one little section of our scope of our IT environment, whether it's in the cloud. We have a server room that we used to have it in. We're moving it to the cloud eventually here. That little section of services and data that we have has to be PCI compliant, versus in SOC 2, it's every single employee in the company has to abide by these rules and these policies and has to have these systems in place to make sure that they can't access information that they shouldn't access. And it keeps us safe internally as well as from external factors as well. Especially in the day and age that we're coming to with technology advancing so fast, I totally understand why the need for SOC 2 compliance is there, and I fully support it, and we are a very secure company, so happy with that.
Can you tell me what merchants need to know about their side when it comes to PCI compliance?
The data that we receive for you is safe. In both aspects. If it's card transactions and if we receive the full card numbers, not in most places we don't receive the full card numbers, but if we do, we have those in places where it's not going to get exposed. And an auditor can attest to that. We are safe data custodians of your data, so we won't expect to see any of that be breached in any way. It is all in our system, and we make sure to handle it appropriately.
What has been the most strange or surprising thing that you've learned while working in this industry?
It's a very big industry, and there's so much to it. I thought payment processing was simply going to be, hey, transaction happened and we get the data and we make stuff happen with that transaction. But it's so much more than that. There's so many intricate details to transactions and payment processing. It's a really cool, complex system, and it's amazing to really think about how gigantic it really is. But on the flip side of that, some of the bigger players in this space, it's amazing to me how archaic their systems might be sometimes. I'm baffled that some of the ways that we connect with them sometimes take a month or two to be able to integrate with them, because we're trying to get into their system with like a project manager. They don't always know how to support the system that they have. And I'm just like, oh man, this is sometimes it's too big for some of these companies to support properly, I feel like. And I want to, that's why I have the mentality that I want to keep as current as possible and make sure that we are on the cutting edge of technology and growing from there.
Well, speaking of the cutting edge of technology, like you said, it's constantly changing, and you're obviously thinking ahead.
Yeah.
So is there anything that your team is working on or preparing for the future that maybe merchants need to start thinking ahead of?
I always try to think about the different ways that payments will be happening in the future. I don't know where that will go. Everybody just does credit card transactions, but you know, when are merchants going to start moving to real-time payments, and is cryptocurrency going to kind of enter the market at some point? And those are things I'm staying aware of and trying to make sure that we are ready for it when it comes up.
So do you see any opportunity for growth when it comes to IT and engineering to strengthen our company in the future years?
We have so much that we can do, still so much untapped potential. I know that. And I know that artificial intelligence is growing so fast. We use it for surface level stuff.
If a merchant could sit in your department for the day, what do you think would surprise them the most?
I think they'd just be amazed at the amount of branches that our code takes based on just some data coming in. Like your transaction comes in and we do so many different things with it, and like to get it from transaction to settlement to an ACH to everything. It's like a really complex process, and it seems like it should, like I said earlier, it seems like it should be such a simple thing, but on the surface, but when you really get down to the details of it, it's different for every platform. So we get a transaction from here, different than a transaction from here, and we have to handle it differently.
So with everything that we've discussed today and all of your insights into our departments and our technology, from your perspective, what do you think makes USAG and ECS Payments a trustworthy partner?
Our merchant base and our ISOs, I think, are pretty telling. We have such a large portfolio and people that stick with us for a long time. Our ISOs too, they've been dealing with us and adding more and helping us board more merchants to our system. The dashboards that we have, our ISO dashboard that allows them to see their reporting and analytics just in one quick space, as well as the reporting that our merchants have access to. There's so much that we provide, and we try to provide as much information as possible so that people can make good decisions with their business and progressing through payment processing with us.
So if you could give yourself one piece of advice past Kyle in 2018 before starting this job, what would your advice be to yourself?
To not let the mistakes I've made to affect like kind of my attitude, I guess, and to just advocate for myself and for my team. I think that my advocacy for myself and the team, I think, is what has helped us grow in that department so much. I've constantly just, I knew that I had the right idea, and I knew that this team was going to be so important to USAG and ECS Payments. I just kept on advocating for us, and I think we've grown so much as a result.
Well, thank you, Kyle, for joining me today and giving us all an inside look on how your team keeps all of our infrastructure strong.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. I've had fun, and I hope we do this some more sometime.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Technology is evolving fast, and it's easy to become complacent when everything feels status quo. Kyle's perspective shows us that dependable processing requires constant attention, quick problem solving, and a mindset that anticipates technological trends to best serve our merchants in an industry that is ever changing. If you enjoyed sitting in on this conversation, check out our full library to see how ECS Payments, a division of USAG, puts merchants first with our dedicated in-house support from every department. Until next time, I'm Shanna with ECS Payments.